A Hizbollah flag flutters at a watchtower near the Lebanon-Syria border. Credit AP. The United States is trying to curb the increasing Iranian influence in the Middle East and is taking its fight to Lebanon through Tehran's main proxy, Hizbollah. As part of wider U.S. strategy, the recent sanctions imposed on Iran and its non-state actors will give Lebanese officials a major headache in forming a new government. The U.S. has been imposing sanctions on the militant group for decades. However, a new wave last week appears to be more serious about targeting the group's top leadership as well as businessmen and companies that Washington says are funding the group that has sent troops to Syria to bolster Bashar al-Assad's regime. And they come weeks after U.S. President Donald Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal. After holding parliamentary elections earlier this month in Lebanon, a new cabinet is set to be formed. On Thursday, Saad Hariri, the outgoing and incoming prime minister, was given the green light to form and lead the new government. A French UN peacekeepers Leclerc tank passes a billboard showing Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, left, and Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, right, on the road of the southern village of Borj Kalaway in Lebanon. Credit AP. But Mr. Hariri will have to tread a fine line in forming a new government by proving to the West and Gulf allies that Hezbollah does not control the country's major decisions. Saudi Arabia has previously accused Lebanon of providing political cover to the group. On the other hand, Hezbollah has to be represented in some capacity since it represents a significant sect and part of the country's makeup. Lebanon is ruled by the 1989 Taif Accord that ended the 1975-90 civil war and called for equality between Muslims and Christians. Now in a stronger position after this month's election, Hezbollah and its allies are expected to form a greater part of the government. This is Mr. Hariri's third time being called on to form a government, and he has been an outspoken critic of Iran and Hezbollah. But he noted that his hand is extended to all political parties in our country for cooperation to achieve a state that's sovereign, free and independent. While Hezbollah traditionally was granted minor ministerial portfolios, Hassan Nasrallah, the group's leader, said that this was no longer acceptable. This caught the attention of world powers and perhaps influenced the timing of the sanctions. On Monday, Mike Pompeo, the U.S. Secretary of State, told Iran that it should halt its support of Hezbollah. His exact words in front of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee were, "We will track down Iranian operatives and their Hezbollah proxies operating around the world and crush them." A diplomatic source in Beirut told The Telegraph that the timing of the sanctions was no mistake. Saudi royal palace shows French President Emmanuel Macron, and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, posing next to Lebanon's Prime Minister Saad Hariri during an official dinner at the Élysée Palace. Credit AFP. They said the U.S.'s decision to impose sanctions was taken before the election, but announced as Lebanon's politicians began their discussion on the government's makeup. Now it's up to them to show that Hezbollah does not in fact control the policy decisions of the country, the source said. So, which ministries are potentially available for arguably Iran's strongest non-state militia? The Ministries of Defense, Interior, Foreign Affairs and Finance are the four key portfolios highly sought after. They require communication and travel with foreign countries, which makes them just about out of the question for Hezbollah with the new sanctions. The group had two ministries in the outgoing government, Industry and Youth. Similar ministries are expected to be granted, while there's a slight possibility that a bigger ministry could be substituted in. Mohanad Hajali of the Carnegie Middle East Center in Beirut believes the sanctions would make it difficult for Hezbollah to draw on independence and get any sensitive government portfolios. Mr. Hajali noted that Lebanon has been careful in the past not to miss any opportunities to convince the Americans in Congress to make sure any sanctions are specific and target certain individuals. Because of the past trends by Lebanon, Hizbollah could be limited in its choices. It's widely expected for another 30-member cabinet to be formed, meaning that 15 ministers will be Christian and 15 Muslim. Shia, Sunni and Druze will divide the 15 Muslim ministers amongst themselves, meaning 5 for each. This will leave Hizbollah and Amal with most likely 2 and 3 ministers respectively. The finance ministry looks to be retained by the Shia sect, but by Amal. Nasrallah has spoken of his ambition for a Ministry of Planning, which doesn't exist but could be formed and granted to his party. The other possible ministry would be the Public Works and Transport Ministry. This would arguably be the biggest ministry given to Hizbollah since their participation in any government. But Thursday's fresh sanctions by Washington on airlines for transporting weapons, fighters and money to Iranian proxies in Syria and Lebanon could make it difficult for foreign acceptance of Hizbollah controlling the ministry. The ministry oversees the country's flag carrier, Middle East Airlines, and Lebanon's central bank controls 99% of MEA's shares. As Mr. Trump jostles with Iran, Beirut will need to play its cards right if it hopes to continue receiving military aid and support for a stable Lebanon.